Hello, everyone. Our group include Xingyi, Jiang Shipan, Shuli, Yuwen, and Jiaming. First of all, I will introduce some basic background about Kintore. Walonglu Aka Kintore is situated 530 kilometers west of Alice Springs in Kintore. Nestled at the base of culture important house. Pulujagara means two house. The population is around 415 and mostly made up in Tupi people with small population of Warpitra people. Next page, please. And I will do some secondary research. The increasing trend in the frequency and the intensity of extreme rainfall events increase the difficulty of drainage. And a better understanding of fluid dynamics is necessary to develop effective flood risk management strategies. In residential area, not only topographic elevation, but also the presence of the above ground man-made structures and underground drainage networks have a significant impact on the water flow propagation. Therefore, assessing flow movements in residential area requires a modeling approach that reflects the influence of those factors. Information gathering is critical when dealing with flooding issues. The right decision needs accurate data supported by a high precision model. This is a flood data processing model I found, which is built for city, but still helpful for us to analyze the problem in Kintore areas. Its model collected flood-related data from many resources and simulate and evaluates them according to the local geographical conditions. This model has been used to study the Warrington area of London as an example, and to predict the flooding capacity of Wales and England. This analysis improves understanding of urban flood process and helps decision-making in flood risk management. Due to the lack of physical and economic and social resources in less developed area, flood disasters are likely to occur there. Understanding rural vulnerability is critical to develop effective disaster risk reduction strategies. Next page, please. Also, less developed area and the city are interestingly linked, and the vulnerability of less development area is assessed without considering its relationship to cities. Many theoretical frameworks for simulating and assessing vulnerability have been developed, varying in scope and depth in the term of scale and components. However, these frameworks do not explicitly mention the impact of flood or other hazard linkage between spatial units. A unit for fireworks is proposed considering the main elements of rural urban linkage, something like human, information, financial goods, and service flows, components of vulnerability of various factors. The framework emphasizes that the role of rural urban linkage is critical to understand rural flood vulnerability. In addition, the frameworks emphasize the role of spatial factor, urban size, and the disaster from urban size as critical to understanding rural vulnerabilities. Considering a spatial development perspective, the frameworks can be used as a tool to understand the multifaceted real vulnerability for climate change and adaptation and disaster risk reduction. Overall, the proposed frameworks contributes to the understanding to concept and linkage of vulnerability, rural urban depthness, and rural development dynamics. Based on these frameworks, we can come up with many answers to help improve the flooding problem, such as stressing the connections between cities and suburbs, facilities less developed area to get advanced warnings through cities with more information flow, assessing the migration of affected people, government helping them to get employment and hygienic accommodation to maintain their basic life, consider and relying the strong support of city. At the same time, the city's strong supplies capacity can help the relief and reconstruction of less developed area by steering the transportation of material in advance. While the neighboring cities should religiously carry out educational activities to raise the awareness of general knowledge of local people about disaster prevention. Expansion the scope of urban infrastructure to help the less developed area. Finally enhance the flooding resistance through environment management. Next page, please. Okay, I sketched for two kind of design that extends that were believed suitable for the Kintore area. One was flood wall, and another one was floating shelter. Flood walls are passive but effective floor pretending design for some deformation capacity and relatively low cost or potential for cost reduction. Flood, next please. Next, please. Okay. Floating shelters, on the other hand, our designs are used all over the world. The structure do not require high technical content and cost, but are effective. People's living and policy is further ground. Our group design direction is also a floating shelter, but we will adapt it to the culture and needs of Kintore region. For example, by adjusting the power and water supply system. Here is my part. And please next speaker to stop.
Hi everyone, my name is Xun Li. I will present the first part of site analysis. First one is the climate condition analysis, and second one is the contour of Kintore. Third one is the climate change and weather pattern in Kintore. So through the image, it is very obvious that Kintore is very hot at summer. According to the health line, people can feel heart cramps and exhaustion from 32 degrees to 40 degrees. This high temperature can also raise wildfires, which may stop trees that are growing. So without the trees, the rain run off the soil and into the river and the streams. So which means it can increase the risk of the flooding. And the second image, I would like to talk about the Kintore's climate. So this is a hot desert climate. The climate condition will reduce the limited plants in desert and also cause a bad rainfall pattern. So Kintore with this kind of climate condition can be more frequent to suffer extreme weather and have low amounts of vegetation. And the second image shows that a different amount of rainfalls from October to March is a wet season, as well as from the April to December is a dry season. When flooding comes, the wet season can make the whole situation get worse. People may live in the humid environment, which is a very poor living condition, and also having rainfall will worsen the flooding. And let's have a look at this picture. The heaviest rainfall occurred in 2016, which leads to flooding in Kintore. It has resulted in bad consequence. Many people lost their homes, so we really should think about how to avoid the flooding. And also, the case claims that Kintore is located at Mr. Lessler and Mr. Strickland, which with high winds. So those winds can bring the dust storms. The fierce storms also attract the community, brings the pouring rains and cause the flooding. The community can be isolated due to the weather. So both the air and the road access can be prevented in case of extreme weather. So according to those two site analysis, so this area is very windy. We need to design something against the wind. Also, it is hot deserts climate. People need a shelter, water, suitable clothes to avoid extreme weather condition. So developing more plants to generate a better environment is also important. Natural light can be a good stuff to use. We can use a solar panel to sustain electricity. So this is the second part. So this part we're gonna talk about the contour in Kintore. So those 3D models through the lecture can show the contour of a Kintore. This is a very flat area, gentle slope of the flat land, or allow water to penetrate into the sand very fast and increase the lag time. Without trains, Kintore cannot have a lagging time. It is more easy to have the flood. And the second one is all the deserts are surrounded in Kintore. So this living condition can be very hot, can be very dry, and the huge difference of the temperature. The third one is that it is a very remote area to all the major cities, very far to Alice Spring. So the impact is that it is very difficult to get out and also hard to receive the supplies. The fourth one I would like to talk about is the Lake McDonald. It is very close to the residential area. So when flooding comes, it will increase the risk as well. And the last one, I would like to talk about the Laropin Drive, which is a fast way between the Alice and the Kintore. Alice Springs is the large and the closest town. So 2016, after the flooding, it was blocked, which triggered a lot of problems. So according to the contour in Kintore, shelter is a very good idea to deal with the flooding. The design can enforce a road or build a portable bridge to create access, use personalized straw, carrying staff. So developing a good system to operate the lake as a precaution is also important as well. So here's my part. So next presenter.
Thank you. See the next page, please. Next page, yes, thank you. It is found that Belvy is the most distributed. The Belvy macrotis lactis is a semi-fossorial and medium-sized bandicoot. Adult females and males reach a maximum mass of 1,200 and 2,500 grams, respectively. The species is part of a suite of medium-sized native mammals, followed by rabbits and other predators, such as the fox and the dog. The southern parts of the region are dominated by three Spanish fax or hammock grass species with an overstory of scattered shrubs and trees, including species of Grevilla, acacia, and eucalyptus, a rare of tea tree. In the south, there are also discontinuous communities of Moga, Acacia, Anura, and extensive areas of the desert oak. Spanifax grasses become less dominated on the northern edge of the study area and are replaced by other grass species. Next page, please. Due to the frequent occurrence of fires and rainfall in this area, which affects the habitat and vegetation survival of these wild animals, it's necessary to study the regional climate and vegetation and implement animal identification and monitoring technologies. The picture on the right is a random plot and research site in the core area. Animal trails are the main method used to identify the occurrence of animal species on plots or tracers. The personnel involved in the field work skillfully identify the animal science and are accompanied by traditional indigenous people on a field trip to determine the range of species. An effective design establish corresponding refuges and habitats, but there are too many uncontrollable factors and a wide range of production areas. So it's relatively difficult to implement. Next page, please. Regarding potential dangers, there are severe storm, bushfire, and plant waste and gas pollution. Most rainfalls during the period from December to March, but occasional storms occur at other times of the year. Rainfall may cut access to unsealed road for up to 7 days at a time. Severe weather can be quite localized and develop quickly. The exact location of severe weather can be hard to be predict. Warnings are issued with varying lead times depending on the weather situation. A fire hazard includes a fire threat to the township, housing and infrastructure of the district. Controlled burning occurs on a yearly basis in the district and the surrounding communities. Contaminants are produced by local factories that process animal carcasses or animal byproducts. Many responded after being forced to close. Next page, please. The construction of special types of buildings, such as suspended fireproof houses, can well solve these potential dangers. Although the control rendering plants is regulated under the pollution prevention and control regulations, permits set strict conditions that must be met to prevent or reduce any impact on the environment. So it's very necessary to design warning signs and slogans to assist relevant department to strengthen management and improve factory environmental awareness. That's my part.
So hello. Next one is for the inhabitant analysis. Firstly, we were looking for the cultural values. So as a designer, we need to understand the risk about differences in cultural value between indigenous society and the individuals. So firstly, I will introduce the language. According to the chart, English was the only language spoken at home by 0.8% of Aboriginal in Kintore. The most language spoken is the Rujara, was 34.8. So English is the third or fourth language of the community members in Kintore. So next page, please. Yeah, next one, we're looking for the dwelling. The average household size was 6 person. Also in the chart, you can see all the house type are separated house, which means this type is the unique architecture style. Basically, house color they chosen are bright, bold colors like red, yellow, and blue. The reason I mentioned this because the traditional indigenous people is a family living unit. So we have to respect their tradition when we design the shelter. So next page, please. And then we're looking for the education. The 7.8% people who over 15 have completed year 12 as their highest level of educational attainment. No one had a complete advanced diploma. 40.6% were attending a primary school. It's not good news because Kintore is the youth indigenous community. Approximately 40 population is children. So next page, please. Let's move on the food and eating habits. From the ABC News, it says that the cost of groceries is much higher in the remote areas than regional centers such as Alice Spring. So, and we know Kintore is situated west of Alice Spring. It means that the price of fresh food are more expensive than easily preserved products like potato chips, fried chicken, which contain high salt, sugar, and sugar. So people always choose high risk unhealthy food as their eating menu. So next, please. So next page, please. So now we're looking for how to design better shelter for the users. Firstly, we need to pay attention to ensure people can fully understand how to use the shelters. We can employ local indigenous staff who can speak English to assist us to explain our design. Secondly, is the children care. Approximately 14% of Kintore population is children. So maybe the children need their mothers to take care of them. The size of the shelter should be determined by the estimated number of women and children who will reside at or access the space for a specific period of time. So the third one is the separate the different gender group. We need to separate the women, men, boys, and girls, respect their norms, and it will avoid some potential pitfalls. The fourth step is food storage and sanitation. Be sure to install the ventilated fans in shelter to clean the air. There is high risk of disease transmission if in a densely populated shelters. So how to solve the multiple culture? Firstly, language barrier is the first challenge. We need some local people to assist us to translate to their own language. So next one, please. Next page, please. Let's move on the next question. The politics in Kintore. The kingship system is a feature of regional social organization and the family relationship across Central Australia. TJ for males and for females. This circle goes on and on for generations. How marriage and names are determined is on the left. So when you work straight in Kintore, people are basically acquaintance and relatives. So for the next page, please, for the design, planning the number of for people should vote consideration to the family size, including the Aboriginal the range of children who might need to stay at the shelter with their relatives and parents. This is estimated important to develop strategies for ensure that people who have the same skin names are not turned away from the shelters due to their family size and prevent barriers to access. So if all the family members in the same shelters, it will provide a good backup plan for search and rescue of lost people. So the next one, please. And then the next one is the special need for inhabitants. Firstly, children and elderly. Firstly, is children and elderly people care. So there are 27.7 children who under 40 age and 13.2% elderly people in Kintore, which means when emergency situation happens, two group people need special help and care. For example, in Sydney, rooms in shelter are built with a removable wall between the two units, so women with several children can be accommodated by removing wall. Next one, please. Secondly, as the woman's view are valued. So kitchen and hygiene needs are more likely to be understood by women given their roles as a primary caregivers in many cultures and communities. Consulting with women and allowing them to participate in the shelter provides is very important. So last one is the gender problem. Recruit the local people with a sound understanding of gender issues for planning assessment teams. Ensure that both men and women are represented on their assessment team, so they can explain well to residents and collect their opinions. So that's my part. Thank you. Yeah, I finished.
Hi, as is mentioned above, there's a high proportion of children in the whole community. The typical evolution of the population in indigenous communities may cause loss of potential dangers. In Australia, an indigenous children can be expected to die 20 years earlier than his non-native compatriot. For protection problems like poor health, lower levels of education, chronic living conditions, higher levels of incarceration, higher death rates, and higher rates of suicide among children and youth are likely to occur. Our design makes the protection and education of children into account to ensure that the shelter provides a good space for children to learn and play. The structure needs to be easily assembled and put together. At the same time, the material used to make up the shelter must be non-toxic and light enough not to cause injury if a child is knocking into it. Next slide, please. The debate between the federal and northern territory governments over remote housing also have an impact on the residents. In the first place, our design will ensure that the shelter is made of robotic materials to guarantee the safety of the people in the shelter and in the possible event of conflict, then equip the shelter with communication equipment to enable them to communicate even within the shelter and given the access to the real-time official news. And next page, please. Here comes a part of chronic issues affects those inhabitants in the site. Kintore community is now greatly reliant on government benefits, but the problem is the government is just wanting through money as if without teaching the residents how to make a living, and this does not fundamentally solve the local problems. Kintore community member Mr. Lanes thinks remote communities can become self-sufficient by running themselves own business. What we will do to build a, a motor structure allows the shelter to be easily assembled and disassembled, making it easily for residents to modify it to suit their needs. And next page, please. The food insecurity and nutrition-related chronic conditions are responsible for a large proportion of the ill health experienced by the community. There are two main reasons for this. Colonization causes dietary destruction. With colonization came migrants. People are forced to remove from central lands and made to live from ravines and missions. Low income. It is also well documented that the cost of basic health foods has been progressively rising in Australia, with prices significantly higher in rural and remote areas. And next, please. Our design will try to make very good ventilation equipment to extend the storage time of food. Also, work with some education brochures to teach residents sensible and diet structure. And next, please. About the emergency or potential issues affecting those inhabitants, income management is a problem that needs to be solved. According to Marine, a healthy worker in Kintore, the community is gradually becoming better equipped and people are getting to work. But because of the faulty income management, they are stuck in every spring. The government is now developing an income management card that could be used in all stores where the POS system is available. Our design will be compatible with the system, and differences in income can also lead to a few problems, including crime among residents. So in our design, the shelter is structurally safe and protects the residents as well as its property. Next page, please. Poor living conditions is a problem that has only emerged in this community over the last few generations. Chronic disease and kidney disease are rife in this community. Rubbish is everywhere. The people sit in these pretty conditions surrounded by flies. The main reason that causes this is that indigenous people have only recently changed from a nomadic to a sedentary lifestyle, leading to chaotic living. And next page, please. So the solution is creating genetic houses and educating the people. They should have tried to learn the skills required to have a healthy lifestyle in a completely new way of living. In our design, the space in the shelter is planned in such a way that the facilities are as close as possible to original habits of the residents while ensuring hygiene and safety. And next page, please. Here is our reference list, and that's all. Thank you very much.